One. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Who Threw the Curve. And today we have Randy coming out to us from Delaware, and I myself coming from New York City. And today I'm sporting this is not even like this doesn't even exist anymore. The Gold's Gym in New York City. For those who didn't know, I used to run that gym. It was a very popular gym on 54th Street, and the owner was Gary Prince, and he died recently, but he was a very good, very, very, very good man. And one day I'd like to tell the story, but we're gonna talk about the homeless epidemic issues that are going on, and basically is it an indicative of America's loss of ambition and dignity? So when I speak about homelessness, I speak of it on a visual perception because I myself have never experienced homelessness. I've experienced poverty plenty of times, but I've never been to a point where I was down and out and homeless. So, sometimes I may sound like I have no empathy, but in reality, I am very empathetic towards the homeless because everybody has their own story on why they're there. What do you think, Randy?
Yes, you do. That's why I'm writing down exactly what you said because I want to make sure I didn't forget to touch on this. First of all, a lot of art that we talk about goes back to the same thing. It's feelings, okay? You look at the picture and it tells it the way you feel. When you look at this homeless, I've been, not to the point where I lived like that, it was a few days, okay? And I quickly realized, hey, I ain't doing this, and it never happened again. But the ones who are out there with the mental health issues and need help, there's got to be some kind of system because to figure out the ones who really need it and the ones who are faking the funk. You do lose all ambition if you're going to hand somebody 3 hots and a cot every day, and all they got to do is go out and put in 3 job applications, and they can do that for years and live for free. They lose all ambition. You have got to set rules, and you've got to motivate people, and you got to put the right people who aren't going to overlook. And I'm not saying that each case is individual. Okay, you have people who have mental health issues or physical issues, and they just can't. They need the help. But you also have people who stand out here and panhandle for money, and then go get in their 5 Series BMW and go home to their $500,000 house and buy themselves a big old sack of Percocets or a big old sack of heroin, boot up and kick back, play PlayStation, do whatever mommy and daddy says, or it's mommy and daddy doing it.
Right.
That being homeless is real, and it's a horrible. I mean, it's so degrading, and it makes you want to give up.
Right.
But that's when you, as a man or a woman, as a fighter, you got to make a choice. You got to get out of your feelings. You got to get your head right, the mental health part of it, and you got to want it.
Right.
And I'm saying, the help that's out there for the folks that need it, God bless, let's help them.
Right.
The system it's not broke. The system was built that way.
Right.
The system ain't broke. It was built to fail.
Right. So,
Your thoughts?
So, I mean, I think that like people always say they lack dignity and ambition. However, everyone that's homeless don't share the same story. So
No.
sometimes I feel that when we generalize that they have no ambition and no dignity, we kind of like kicking ourselves, or we're just like we're creating a rug to sweep them under. Oh yeah,
You're lying to yourself.
Because we don't really know unless you take the time to speak to one and find out how did you get there. That's the only way you would know their story, and then at that point you could tell, well, they lost their ambition, they lost their dignity. But there are a lot of people that especially now, being free. We spoke about the boomers. They're basically that generation lost a lot in 2008, and they're like steps away of becoming homeless and
Yes.
not having anything.
Yes.
You know, but we don't know each individual story. There's anything from abuse, drug abuse, family abuse. Like automatically, let's say for instance myself, I don't think that because I lived in New York City all my life and I actually speak, and I don't want to say speak, but I listen to the homeless people who sit there and they just rant on me. They don't really mess with me, but they'll talk to me, and I know they're talking to me and they're saying things, and I just listen to them. Um, if you listen to their stories, you could tell that they're there for a different reason. They're not there because they were drug addicts. Some trauma in their life triggered their brain, and it just that's it. They can't function anymore. And it wasn't really drugs. It was just this traumatic event that was never taken care of that just went on, and it just went on and on and on. And now they're homeless. Not only are they homeless, they never got the help they needed. So it doesn't get to that point that now they ride the trains and that's the way they live.
It,
You know?
it's get what you just said. It's choking me up because
Uh,
it's hard to see my fellow Americans, whether I'm a veteran, whether veterans or not. Anybody like that, it's hard for me to see that.
right,
And like you said, people generalize the whole community. They look at them like, oh, they must all be on drugs. They must all be doing
right,
this. This is when you got to take the feelings out of it, and you got to realize that there's a mental health aspect to this, and
right,
you got to, instead of giving and coddling as much as you want to make them just have a warm place to sleep, a bed and something to eat, and then take a shower and kick back with their feet up, watch TV and pet the dog. As much as you want to give that, you got to. It's more important. It's more valuable to give them the ambition and to
right.
give them the reason to want to go do it themselves. The ones who are able, and that's where again being out of your feelings and okay, this is how you got there, but we're not going to talk about that no more.
Right,
That's with your therapist. We're going to talk about how we're going to get you out of it.
right,
And that's where to me, the disconnect in today's society is people just want to dwell on how they got there.
yeah,
Okay, they got there. At the end of the day, that part of the story is written.
yep. And that's the source.
Don't that just tug? I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. You're good. Um, and I think that until we start listening to each individual, because again, not everybody's there because of drugs.
No,
Everybody's there. We all, and I know that. I don't know what my tipping point is, but we all have a tipping point in our mental minds where that's it. It just takes that one point that we reach, and we just trip.
can
You
I
know?
share something? I know in November I got COVID. This is
Right.
embarrassing. I'm telling this. In November I got COVID. Last November. 3 4 weeks later, I started shutting down, like sitting there and they say I'm reliving things that happened in my past. I'm not going to go
Right.
into traumatic things that I have just started talking about. And my wife says, I don't know how you turned out how you are right now.
Right.
Um, I'm a criminal. I got in trouble when I got out of the military. I got in a lot of trouble. For 18 months, I was I got a
Right.
record all
Right.
this long. 90% of it, just nonsense, just stupid stuff. But I finally said no more, and I made a point like this ain't the life I want to live, and I
Right.
ever since. Um, and people need to realize you can't generalizing stuff like that, and it's just you got to understand that everybody's story is different,
Yeah.
but you can't just hand things over to them. I literally was so broke. I would call my mom and ask her she would order pizza from her house and have it sent to my house. They
Right.
called
Right.
the phone. And it took me 2 days without even asking for that. But it made me understand now that, I will not ever not pay my mortgage. I will not ever, you know, I just won't. And
Right.
once you've been through stuff like that and you've done the drugs and when you get the COVID and the mental health hits you, you can't control your mind. It's real. I was that guy. Like, here we go with the mental health shit. Trying to
Right.
yeah, really, it's real. And when
No,
you
I believe it's real.
I'm like,
I
oh
know plenty of people that they weren't drug addicts. They reached their mind reached a point where they
no,
probably were holding in
no.
all this stuff,
My
holding
boss
in.
swore to God he was getting ready to let me go. My insurance, my boss slash owner of my practice. He had no idea. I didn't know what was going on. He was like, I thought you were on drugs. And I'm
Right.
like, I'm not on drugs, bro. I
Yeah.
don't. I didn't know what it was. I never seen it. I didn't know. I didn't know what. It took my
Right.
wife saying, "Get in the car. You're going." You
Right.
know, it's been therapy talking about stuff. Now I'm able to talk about it. I would have never told him what it is.
Right.
So you get to a point where you've had enough. Everybody has their point, okay?
Yeah.
And I stopped worrying about taking care of myself as far as not doing dangerous things. I don't want to hurt myself. I don't want to die. I guess I'm so scared of that. From the moment you're born, your expiration date's already known.
Right.
So, no matter what you're doing, on that date and time, you're going to go.
We all have one. You're right.
So if you're not living your life to live, if you're living not to go bankrupt, if you're living not to break up with you're not living.
Right.
You got to live your life to live, bro.
So, I mean,
Sorry.
no. That's good. You know why? A lot of people sometimes have to hear this. So we have a lot of listeners, people that watch us, and I always think that it's important. Again, this is why I share a lot of my stuff, uh, because a lot of people go through the same things, but they don't. They people think that it only happens to them, but it really doesn't. It happens to everybody. And it happens more than what you think. And every situation is different, but every situation is shared by others. So, I always like to share things because I don't want people to think that, ever to think like, you know what, nah, you're the only one who goes through this. No, we all go through this. Or we all go through our own, but it is also shared with others who maybe they don't share, but they go through it. And when they hear things like this, you give them a sense of like, wow, I'm not the only one who does it or goes through this. Or maybe, what you said or what you did and how you got help. Maybe now that person be like, well, maybe I should get help.
Yeah, and same thing you said. Don't next time you see somebody homeless out there, don't generalize them.
Yeah.
Just, you know what? Maybe just say, "Hey, how you doing?" If you don't
Yeah,
want to give them their money, so what? Just you might make their day just by saying hello.
exactly. Because they're so used to being shitted on.
They're human. They're
Yeah,
human. And no matter if they can help it or not, they're human. And to
yeah,
generalize them, no, that's the first thing we all want to do.
yeah.
But
No, and that's a good point because sometimes when those people are at their lowest point, you have to reach out to them a little bit, and just a hello will make a difference.
yeah, a simple hello, man, can
Yeah,
can you know, a young kid in the Wawa the other day, you could tell he was overweight and had acne and he was the way he was carrying himself. You could tell
right.
that and he had an Eagle shirt T-shirt on, and
Oh man,
we both wanted a Wawa biscuit. We didn't want a bagel. We didn't want a croissant. We wanted a Wawa biscuit.
right,
And he's sitting there and he's like, "There's no. Can I get a Wawa?" And I said, "Yeah, can I get one too? How about the birds, buddy?" And I gave him, "Give me a
right.
buck. Go birds." For the next 10 minutes, while we're waiting on our biscuit and getting our coffee, he stood right there and just told me all about who his favorite players were and everything. And
Yeah,
I could tell that it was making his day.
absolutely. Because nobody wants to speak to them.
No. And I'm like, I gave the kid my card. I said, "Man, you want to talk football? Give me a call." He's texted me like 10 times ever since.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
I mean, with that said, I'm sure we'll visit topics like this in the future. I thank you again for sharing your a little bit about yourself, and also, hey, whoever doesn't know, we also got to thank Randy for his service in the military because that's another thing that we should all do every time you see somebody in the military. I do practice this myself. As you thank them for their service, because it's not easy. It may be easy being in the military when there's nothing going on, but when there's shit going on, it's not easy. And a lot of times they don't come back. They don't come back. They come back in a box with a flag on it. Or and if they do, and if they do come back, a lot of times they come back not in the right state of mind because they seen shit, experienced shit that we normally don't do. So we would never know what they're going through. So everyone should thank any military person they see, whether they're in service or on duty or off duty or not in the service, a veteran. You should thank them for their service, because at the same time, they're the ones who keep this country safe and this country going. I just thought I had to share that.
Thank you.
I think that's
all you out there that take care of your vets. Take care of them. Take care of them, and because they've taken care of you more than you know.
With that said, again, thanks for sharing. And again, don't forget to share us. Don't forget to, you could actually write as well so we can have a discussion on it. And share, subscribe if you're on YouTube, like and follow if you're somewhere else. But you can like us on YouTube too. With that said, we'll see you on our next segment. And, you guys have a nice day. And don't forget, speak to everyone and do not look down at people. Thanks.